Hey everybody, what's going on? It is James here with Crypto Common Sense, and I have your Bitcoin slash cryptocurrency update for December the 31st. So, of course, this will be the final update for the decade. How crazy is that? Before I jump into the content, please do me a huge favor. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up button on this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to click the bell icon to get notifications when I release daily updates. So, first things first. Wow. When we take a look back at the last 10 years, Bitcoin is up. I think I've read an article today. It was like 9 million percent or something. So I think it's important to stop and really take note of that. Not because it's near as bullish as people are making it out to be. Because really, when you stop and think about this on a big picture, that's a little bit scary to think that we're all sitting here, looking for reasons to long an asset that's already up 9 million percent. I haven't double checked that math, by the way, so I don't know if that's correct, but it sounds probably pretty accurate. So I did want to point that out. There's obviously, there could be a very bright future for Bitcoin. I certainly hope there is, but we also have to keep in mind that maybe this was one giant bubble, and when the stock market finally unravels at some point in the future, maybe it unravels crypto with it. That being said, for right now, I'm going to remain hopeful, okay? And that's the way I'm going to play it. So let's take a look at some charts. First chart I want to look at is the monthly chart, and I want to talk about this cross. So I'm going to go over to the BLX chart, which is, of course, the Brave New Coin chart, which gives us more history. Essentially, 3 times in Bitcoin's past, there have been bearish MACD crosses. I do not trade the MACD signals. The histogram is really useful for finding divergences, but the signals themselves, I find them to be a little bit unreliable. I also find that there's a lot of false signals. That being said, in the case of larger time frames, you're obviously going to get less false signals. And if we do look at Bitcoin's history, we have to, concede the fact that the last 2 times, which it's only happened twice before now, the last 2 times there was a bearish MACD cross, it resulted in further downside on Bitcoin. The first time the MACD cross was back in 2014, and it dropped, depending on where you want to draw it from, somewhere between 50 and 70% after that cross. The next time there was a bearish MACD crossover was actually in 2018, and it happened on the close of this green candle here, and once that candle closed, price fell about 59% before it finally stopped falling. And now we just got another confirmed bear cross, right? This had looked like it was going to cross, but we had to wait for December to close, which just happened. So it does look like it is now a confirmed cross, which means that if history repeats, and it often does, then we could be looking at another 50% plus drop, which I talked about in past videos. That would take us down to around that $3,500 area or so. Okay, so that's the first thing that I wanted to point out, was this monthly chart looks pretty rough. Definitely not what you want to see if you are a bull. If we take a look at a weekly chart, not a lot going on here. Obviously, there's not enough information yet. The week is far from over. It's just now Tuesday. We've got 5 days left in the week, and I just don't think there's any reason to really worry a whole lot about the weekly at this point. We know that we have a key area of resistance of around $7,800. We've not been able to break through it. We have another key area down around $7,400. We have not been able to break through that. So right now we're just kind of ranging. If we look at a 3-day chart, the 3-day chart, little bit of information here, right? The big thing that I'm noticing is we actually did come back underneath that blue line, which was resistance. So instead of looking like a bullish retest, this is starting to look more like a false break. It almost looks like it's going to try to put in some type of head and shoulders pattern. We don't know that for a fact, right? It's just a speculation. It's a maybe. You get the left shoulder here, a possible head, and this could be trying to form a right shoulder on the RSI. So going to keep an eye on that. Also going to keep an eye on this beautiful triangle that one of my Discord members pointed out yesterday or the day before. This triangle that looks something like this. So pretty, right? Got the flat bottom, got the downward sloping line. So I'll be watching for that to act as resistance. And of course, if it moves down, I will be watching for it to drop out of the bottom of that triangle and looking for some type of capitulation possibly. So that's what I'm seeing on the 3-day chart. If we look at a daily chart, or actually let's look at a 4-hour chart here. One thing about charts, and I just posted about this on Twitter a few minutes ago, when I first started trading, I don't know why, but probably the first year and a half, maybe even first 2 years that I was trading, I really ignored line charts. To me, they seemed like a chart for newbies, right? Which is funny because I was new, but I wanted to, be smarter. I wanted to be more advanced and use the fancier charts. So I use mainly candlestick charts, which, by the way, I still mainly use candlestick charts. But as time has went along, I still like looking into line charts. Now I actually do flip back and forth between them when I'm looking for patterns and stuff, because this line chart looks really messy. You've got all these wicks, you got all these tails. But if you just, I'm saying line chart, but sorry, candlestick chart looks messy. If we flip it over to a line chart, it becomes pretty clear what this is, right? This is actually just a big descending triangle that's really been running from late November all the way until now. We've got a pretty flat bottom down here. It's not perfect, but it's pretty flat, right? And then we have this series of lower highs. You could potentially make an argument that maybe we shouldn't draw this as a flat line. Maybe we should draw it more like a sloped line, something like that. And maybe I could see that. I don't really think this is a descending wedge. Okay, I really don't. I think this is, just what I said, which is a symmetrical triangle. Excuse me, a descending triangle, right? Which after a downward move, if you get a down move into a descending triangle, that's a pretty good chance it's going to be a continuation pattern. And in this case, if we're measuring this triangle and we're measuring it from close to close, so from here to here, it's about $1,385. And if we pull this down to the bottom of that, we're just kind of eyeballing this, ballparking it down around $5,200. And of course, if we draw a horizontal line down around that level, look here where that puts us, right in this area of support / resistance, or what some people would refer to as a demand zone. Okay, so I think that paints a pretty clear picture that right now, if I had a gun to my head and somebody said, are you bearish or are you bullish? I would definitely have to say I'm bearish. I know a lot of people are thinking the new year is going to be a good time and prices are going to pump. I have no idea, but when I'm looking at this, I don't see a reason to be going long on Bitcoin right now. Okay, I'm still sitting in the same short that I've been sitting in. I'm being very, very patient with that short, and I haven't been stopped out because we haven't hit 7,600, and I haven't taken profit because we haven't hit my profit target. So just riding that short. And honestly, if it was any other month and it wasn't the holidays and I didn't have the thing going on with my neck and everything, I probably would have closed it and been more active with trading, right? I haven't really done a lot of trading the last week or two. I've done some chart analysis, but for the most part, I've just been kind of chilling out with the family and enjoying the holidays. And, fortunately, with trading, it's kind of a feast or famine type of deal sometimes. Sometimes you'll have a month where it's really, really good, and that 1 month might account for, your income for half the year. And, that's nice, because then there's months where you can say, I'm just going to relax a little bit this month and chill out. And that's kind of been the case this year. I've had some months where some months were just really, really amazing. Like in May, had my best month ever, right? Which was funny because I actually had it shorting in an uptrend. Not usually what you want to do, but it worked out for me. But then December's been very slow, and I haven't taken hardly any trades. Maybe a dozen or so trades all month, versus normally I'm looking at 30 to 60 trades a month. So been pretty slow. But that's what I'm seeing on Bitcoin. Okay, let's talk about a few altcoins. So I don't really have any altcoins specifically that I had in mind. Let's just kind of jump around a little bit and see what we have. So over on EOS, let's look at a weekly chart. This is not trending anymore, right? This really isn't trending. When I look at this, it really looks more like consolidation to me, right? There's a lot of sideways movement. Now you can say the same thing and say, well, James, there's a lot of sideways movement in Bitcoin too. And there is, right? There definitely is. But the big difference is this is already near its bottom, right? If we take a look at one with a little bit more history here, right? It's sitting down here. It's basically retesting these old lows. This very well could be the bottom on EOS, okay? I think what these alts do, I think it might give us a little bit of a hint as to what Bitcoin might do in the future. If this is indeed, what a lot of bulls want it to be, which is the disbelief phase of the market cycle, then typically what should happen is we should come down and retest these lows, and then move up off of them and start the next rally. If we break south of these lows back here on some of these major altcoins, it could be a sign that Bitcoin is going to do the same thing, which means that instead of stopping at 3,500 or 4,000, etc., it could mean that, hey, look, Bitcoin's going to actually go ahead and punch in that new low, maybe go back down and retest the 2013 highs, not 2011. So I do want to watch these, and I want to be very careful about being complacent, because one of the ways that you actually lose money, or not even just lose money, but miss out on money, is getting too complacent, right? So if you're a bear and it's like, it's been, okay, well, I've been a bear for 6 months, it's been working out for me, everything's been going great, I'm going to be lazy and just, I'm not even going to really pay attention to the charts. Well, that's typically what happens right about the time the price decides it's going to move up, right? So a lot of people got complacent back here, and then boom, right? If you're asleep at the wheel, you missed the breakout. Same thing that I talked about in yesterday's video about Tesla. I did the same thing. I got complacent. I don't want to say lazy, because I wasn't lazy. I was doing other stuff, but I got complacent. I thought, I have time, I'll get back to it. And then bam, it broke out and left me in its dust. So you do want to keep an eye on these alts. If you're interested in altcoins, I wouldn't just ignore them. I would be watching these and at least taking a look at their charts on a daily basis and making sure that the situation is not changing. Sorry guys, I got distracted. I had an alarm go off on Bitcoin. I wanted to jump over and check it real quick, so I don't know exactly where I stopped talking at. So let me jump back over to EOS. Basically what I was saying is, if this thing drops down below this bottom, that might be a bad sign for Bitcoin. But right now it does have some action to it that looks kind of bottomy to me, right? There's no bullish structure yet, so I'm not saying that I'm going to go suddenly buy a bunch of EOS and go long on it. But it does look like it's trying to consolidate, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if this ended up being accumulation down here, right? I think it's really important to keep an eye on that. There was a pretty clear trend, throughout this period. It started up here, came down here. Here was our pullback, and we have these trend targets. The thing is, right now, I don't really like these big gaps. I don't like basing trades off of these giant, full moves from like 1.618 to 2.618. I understand that it's got a target down around 42 cents. I think it's a legitimate target, but there's a lot of space in between 42 cents and $3.15. I mean, that's several 100% difference. So what I'd like to do is try to find a smaller trend that I might be able to play, something like this. And, that came up back above it. So that's really kind of busted out. So then if we drew it like this, this would probably be the most accurate one, the one that I'd be most interested in on the short term. And that gives me $2.61 as kind of the 6.18 level. Okay, not 6.18, but 0.618. So it's kind of flirting around with that right now. It's right underneath it. If it can't break above that, then I would probably lean toward this going down to $1.95. And the interesting thing about that is on EOS, if you look, that would go in here and fill in this liquidity gap back here. And that right there would probably be the spot that I wanted to get bullish if I could find a setup, right? And what I mean by that is, I do want to get bullish there, but I can't just chase it. I can't just FOMO in at $1.95. But if it gets to $1.95 and it starts to show even a little bit of bullish signs, I'm probably going to be a little bit less hesitant to take a long position, because again, if this is disbelief and all this is doing is retesting its bottom, that might be the best place to buy EOS in the next couple of years. So I'm going to watch it and watch it close, and I think a lot of alts are probably going to look like this. If we jump over to I have not looked at any of these charts before the video, so I'm doing this off the cuff, but let's jump over to a Bitcoin chart for EOS. What is this looking like here? Let me get my 3-day up. Where's my daily moving averages? Okay, so we're sitting not super close, but fairly close to this 200-day moving average. How far is this? About 30%? Oh, geez, not even that. Less than 10% away from the 200-day moving average. So this is really important to watch, because if this does break above this, we could get a bullish retest. And if EOS starts to move up against Bitcoin, it could also move up against fiat, because, we don't know how far Bitcoin is going to go down. But as long as Bitcoin is moving sideways or slowly grinding down, that's a good chance for alts to move. So I would watch this Bitcoin pair as well. If it breaks out, it's a good sign that the fiat may follow it with it sitting around that 200 like that. Also, when you look at this Bitcoin pair, look at this. Look at all of this sideways action. This is a lot of sideways action. You're talking from basically July until now. You're talking about 6 months. I would say 90% sure this is accumulation, right? Accumulation before a breakout north. This looks really freaking good to me right now. I've got to be honest. This makes me actually, I'm going to keep this chart pulled up and make sure I keep an eye on this. I love this range. I haven't been trading Bitcoin pairs because I'm not holding Bitcoin, but if I had, holy cow, what an easy range to play. So yeah, EOS looks pretty good, right? How far are we off of the... I got to switch back over to a US dollar chart real quick. Sorry, guys. It's one of the things about not doing this stuff ahead of time. And we need a US dollar chart that actually has the history on it. So how far off of that line are we? Well, that's a big drop, 60 cents. It's like 22%. I don't know if it's going to get there or not. $1.95 seems like it might be a stretch. I can't hardly see this thing. Well, let me rephrase that. Okay, so here's the deal, right? I'm saying that I don't see it getting down there, but if Bitcoin tanks and tanks hard, that would do it, right? Let's get back. I want to get that 3-day back up. If Bitcoin were to tank and tank hard, this could still range sideways, and its US dollar value could actually drop down there to $1.95. So that's actually, if that happens, I'm just kind of giving you guys a big what if. But if that happens, if Bitcoin tanks and this stays sideways, I'm definitely going to be looking for longs. Again, setups. When I say looking for longs, it still has to be a setup. I can't just throw money on a gamble, right? But if I can find some bull structure or some type of good setup, I'd be very interested. So that's kind of EOS. Let's look at XRP just because I had it pulled up. Somebody asked me about it earlier. So I guess there's somebody that's going around telling people that these are triple bottoms, okay? First off, I didn't write the book on technical analysis, right? So let's just be very clear about that. Obviously, I don't know everything, but I've never heard of a triple bottom being sloped, okay? To me, all this is a downward sloping trend line, and they're trying to compare what's going on now to what happened back here. In my mind, there's no similarities whatsoever, okay? Yes, you had 2 lower lows. Yes, we have lower lows, but you also had bullish divergence back here, triple bullish divergence, right? Lower low, higher low. Very different from what we have now when these things are not diverging at all. They're both making lower lows. The one thing about Ripple or XRP that I would say is this looks like an ascending triangle to me. Not a descending, but an ascending triangle. And if that is an ascending triangle, then of course, you know, the way that works is it's supposed to, technically, break up. And if it breaks up, it's got about a 2 cent, a little over 2 cent target. It would put it up around 22 cents. 22 cents is actually an important level on XRP, right? It's up right here. And you can see that basically that was this really strong level of support / resistance. So do I think it could come back up there? For sure. I for sure think it could do that, right? That would be a very textbook bearish retest. So if you are wanting to take a swing trade on XRP, I would watch this thing because if it does break north, there could be a trade there, right? I wouldn't personally want to jump into it and, you know, hodl it, but on a swing trade basis, for sure. Let's take a look here. What's its Bitcoin pair look like? By the way, I like looking at volume, guys. The reason I never look at it in these videos hardly is because it's a messy thing. But you do want to keep an eye on volume when you're trading. So if we take a look at the Bitcoin pair, oh, it looks even better. It looks even better. Look at this. This thing's due for a pop. See this? Now this was bullish divergence. Look at this. That's what you want to see right there. That's a trend reversal sign. It's the first sign of a trend reversal. Not the only first sign, but it's the first sign that I look for. And if you look now, it's already pumped up about 3.5%. But same thing. This thing, XRP. It's funny because people hate XRP. Guys, I don't care about XRP. I don't care about any of these coins. I care about making money. I will trade a rock if I can make money trading it. Not a crack rock. Let's be clear about that. A legal, mineral rock is what I'm talking about. this is making a series of higher lows. It's not really an ascending triangle because it doesn't have a flat top, but this looks interesting to me, right? If this starts to develop into an uptrend, this looks pretty good. Let's see here. There's no trend yet, but it could be. It could put in something like this, maybe pull back a little bit, and then have a target up around like up here somewhere, maybe, sort of. I don't know. It looks pretty good though. It does look pretty good. So I see some bullish signs on XRP's Bitcoin chart, and these are bullish signs on XRP's fiat chart, right? So both of them look like they want to, have some type of move up. Again, I'm not saying that it's time to hodl this stuff. I'm saying that it looks due for, at the very least, some type of bounce. Okay. Let's take a look at the weekly chart real quick. Now this is pretty interesting. If you look at the weekly, this came down, this came up, this is coming down. If this does move up and it can break through this line, which by the way is a pretty big jump from where it's at, but if it can break through this neckline up here, it's about a 33% jump. You'd actually have a double bottom on a weekly chart, right? And that's actually what I would call bullish structure. And that is the type of thing where I might want to go long on more than just a swing trade. I might actually want to get an investment going. Okay, it has come down. It looks like it's basically came down and tried to fill in this gap, right? This liquidity gap over here. It hasn't perfectly filled it in, but it's pretty darn close. So, yeah, XRP looks pretty good. Let's look at Litecoin. Haven't looked at Litecoin today. Let's do Coinbase. They have plenty of history on it. We'll do Litecoin USD on the left, and we'll do the Bitcoin pair on the right in just a second. So this is the Litecoin chart. And let's take a look here. I don't see any good divergence. We got the bounce off the oversold 3-day. There's no, that weekly looks terrible. I mean, just terrible, terrible. Look at that. Sitting underneath that key line of resistance. It has also come down and tested its neckline though, which is, interesting. If we put it on a daily chart, I still think, and this is what I've been suspecting really since probably July, I just think this gap needs to be filled, this liquidity gap down here around 33 bucks. And there's still a tiny little gap. It's I would say this one's up for debate whether it's even really a gap at all, but there is this level down here that's interesting to me at 23.83. But I think 33.19 definitely has this tendency that it wants to be filled. It looks to me like it wants to be filled in, right? Kind of personifying a chart here, but you understand what I mean. Looks like the market wants to take that out. So I'm not ready to get bullish on Litecoin for sure. It looks like the other day we really did just have a bearish retest of the 200 moving average on the 4-hour, and so far it hasn't really been able to continue that upward move. So let's take a look at its Bitcoin pair, because I know its Bitcoin pair got beat up really bad this year. So it had a giant double top, right? Bam, 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 bam. Had a double top within a double top, bam, 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 bam. Those were both really bearish signs. And right now, it's got a neckline on that double top sitting right around this level. You can see it came down underneath it, it came up and tested it as resistance and failed. So far, this is all just pointing down. Okay, there's nothing here that says, hey, this thing is done and it's ready to turn back up. The interesting thing is this is actually basically at an all-time low on Binance, other than this one tail, right? From a close standpoint, this is really bad shape, okay? I wouldn't have expected that out of Litecoin versus Bitcoin. I expected Litecoin to pull back in US dollars, but I definitely did not expect it to get this battered versus Bitcoin itself. I'm really glad I sold all of my Litecoin when I did, because I would be very upset right now about this. Got to wonder if people are still telling folks to hold for $10,000 Litecoin or not, right? Those good old moon boys. So this just doesn't look great, guys. RSI was at 32 over here. RSI right here is at 31, so there's no bullish divergence on the weekly. On the 3-day, I don't know what this is, right? It's not really anything you can trade off of, or at least I can't trade off of that. This is just kind of sideways chop. there's, if you notice the big difference, there's no real sideways movement, right? Like months and months. When you looked at EOS, you had that months and months of sideways movement. You had accumulation, or at least consolidation, and it looks like accumulation. This does not look like accumulation, right? This is actually just moving down. It's just moving sideways and then going down a level, moving sideways, going down a level. So Litecoin actually looks like pretty rough, okay? And just for the record, guys, Litecoin is literally like my second favorite coin. Like when I'm talking about investments, that's one of the coins I do want to invest in. I just have to wait for it to find a spot to get to. I was actually, my portfolio itself, before I sold all my Litecoin, it was about 33% of it was Litecoin, which by the way was stupid. That's poor risk management. I shouldn't have done that, but I knew the halving was coming up, and yeah, I played a little bit of the, gambling game, I guess, if you want to call it that, because I was holding a lot more than I should have. Hindsight being 2020, it worked out, but not the best trade in the world. I shouldn't have really exposed myself to that level of risk. So that's kind of Litecoin. That's EOS. That's XRP. We're about 30 minutes in, depending on how I edit this thing. Let's take a look at. How about Ethereum? I saw some people saying Ethereum is going to $3,000 next year. Let's look at that. By the way, just for the record, guys, I actually have 7 Ethereum, right? I'm a baller like that. All jokes aside, I actually do have 7 Ethereum. I've had them since 2017, maybe 2018. I don't remember now. But I had a mining operation, which I talked about in past videos. And the last handful of coins that I mined, it was early 2018. I know now. I did not sell them because we were in the bear market. And I hadn't really come to grasp we were in this bear market yet. So I was holding those Ethereum. I was just waiting for the price to go back up, and then I was going to sell them. Ended up having like 7 Ethereum. And then when it kept going down, I just decided I'll hold them to 0, or I'll hold them until they're worth $1,000 someday. And so that's what I did. Even this year when they ran up to, I don't know what it got up to this year, maybe $300. I didn't really watch Ethereum this year. I think got to like $300 maybe back in June. I still didn't sell them, right? So when I'm talking about Ethereum, if I'm bearish, it's not because I want to be bearish. It's not like I'm biased, like, oh, go down, go down, go down. I have 7 of them. It's not a lot, right? Let's be honest. I mean, 7 of them, who cares? It's like $1,000 worth. But I don't know. I'd much rather have 7 of them that were worth $1,000 a piece, or $3,000 a piece, versus 7 of them that are worth $100 a piece. Same thing with Zcash. I have like 27 Zcash that I mined during that same period, right? And I almost sold them for $100 when it ran up because it looked pretty toppy. But I thought I'm not going to do it, right? If I had sold them for like $100 a piece, I would have got like $2,700 or whatever it was. So again, hindsight being 2020, I probably should have done that, but I mined them, and when I mined them, the goal was to sell them for $1,000. So sometimes you do stupid stuff, and that was definitely stupid. Let's look at US dollar pair and look at the Bitcoin pair. So US dollar pair up first. Let's take a look at the daily chart. Our 200-day moving average is basically out of the ballpark right now, so don't care about that. We don't really have a lot of sideways action as far as what looks like consolidation to me. We just have this little couple of weeks going on here. This looks a whole lot like Litecoin, okay? It looks a whole lot like Litecoin. There is a liquidity gap sitting down here around $104, and there could be an argument made, less so, that there's a gap down around $88. So I think both of those levels are worth keeping an eye on. As far as the current price action goes, I don't see any reason to be overly bullish. We have resistance here. It has not broke through that. That would be a key level that needs to break through before I start getting too bullish on this thing. One thing I will say is I can see some higher lows coming in, right? And I can see a semi-flat top coming in. So this could definitely be an ascending triangle trying to form here. And if it's so, it's got a $17 breakout target, which would be up around $150. That level has some, nice relativity to it, I guess if you want to call it that, right? It was basically support through here, resistance through here. And if it does break out, that would be up and above that 140. So that would be a reason to get bullish on Ethereum. Okay. So So it doesn't look terrible. You know, I'm not going to cling to the fact that these gaps have to fill in down here. It has come back down and it's retesting this area of support resistance through here, right? So again, if this is disbelief, we may be bottoming out right now on Ethereum. Let's look at the Bitcoin chart. Okay, well, the first thing I notice is this. That's not what you want to see for sure. But that was, you know, back in October. This is November, so that could definitely be played out. We have any kind of divergence coming in? Anything at all? Not really. Even on a 3-day chart, I don't see anything great. Like if we draw this, now all of a sudden this looks like a bearish retest that failed. Didn't even get all the way up to the line. So the Bitcoin pair, it doesn't look great. It looks pretty decent on the US dollar pair though. Huh. On the weekly, I just can't stop seeing this M. Yeah, I'm not wow, all-time lows. Not loving it, gotta be honest. On the monthly, I mean, if we change this to a line chart, it's gonna be pretty clear. It could be trying to put in a double bottom, right? If we want to be very generous with our bullish bias. And again, this looks like a double top to me. But we're at the bottom of a move, so double tops typically, you know, you really want to look for those more at the tops of moves. But they do happen, right? There's one right there, more downside. Here's one right here, right? This looks like a giant head and shoulders, right? So, yeah, I'm not in love with the Ethereum chart. Sorry, bulls. Sorry, me too. You know, I want my 7 Ethereum to make me wealthy, make me a gajillionaire. So I think that's it, guys. I think I'll wrap up there. A couple different altcoins and what they look like. You know, we'll just have to wait and see what the market brings in 2020. But right now, I'm still bearish. I know that Bitcoin's having this huge pump right now. You know, it's up a whole $100 or $50 or whatever it is. There's no volume right now on Bitcoin. You know, the volume is very, very low, which is not a good sign, right? You want to see more volume than this. The one thing I will say about Bitcoin, and I think it is important to remember this, you know, we have been moving sideways now for about a month and almost a month and a half. So that is definitely consolidation. And you do at least have to be open to the idea that this is actually accumulation. I don't think so, right? I definitely don't think we're accumulating through here. If anything, I think this is probably mini distribution where more coins are getting distributed before further downside. But you do have to be open to it, right? There's no guarantee that this thing is going to go back down and test these levels. There's no guarantee that it's going to go down and fill in these gaps. You know, we don't know what's going to happen. We obviously do have the halving coming up in, you know, about 5 months from now. And this thing certainly could surprise a lot of us bears and, you know, turn us on our head. So we just have to be, you know, do our due diligence and be vigilant, keep an eye on it. And if we do start seeing bullish structure come in, we can't be afraid to take a long trade just because we have this space down here that never got taken care of. With all that being said, please remember I am literally some guy sitting in a spare bedroom, so nothing in this video is financial advice, nothing in this video is trade advice. You should always do your own due diligence and seek out professional investment advice before making any type of investment in cryptocurrency. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure and give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to leave a comment. And of course, don't forget to check the description where you can find links to follow me on TradingView, Twitter, Facebook, and where you can join my paid trading course if you'd like to learn how to trade. This is James with Crypto Common Sense. Thank you for making 2019 an amazing year. And here's looking forward to 2020 for you, me, and everybody else in this space.